Did you know that when you live in the country and don't have a municipal water source, that you are solely responsible 100% for the quality of that water, the testing of that water, any regulations regarding the water? There are no regulations for rural water. You as the private owner of your property are 100% responsible for everything associated with the water. Legally, you also have a responsibility to that water as the property owner. My experience has been that most customers are surprised when I tell them that there's a health unit test only includes bacterial testing and not a picture of the overall drinking water quality. But it always leads to a question of, well, how can I treat my water? And treating your water should be about comprehensive testing to identify known contaminants and then selecting the right equipment to do the proper treatment for those contaminants. So for example, if you have hard water, you may want to choose a water softener, or if you have chlorine in the water, you may want to have some kind of a pitcher filter at your kitchen sink that you can put your tap water into so you can take that chlorine back out. So water treatment equipment is designed to fit different roles, and the role is to treat specific contaminants. There is no all-catching water treatment solution that is going to be one filter that's going to fix absolutely everything. The trusting of equipment should be based on what it actually treat, not on what it's perceived to treat. And if you're going to trust the quality of your water, you need to know what's in the water to know if your treatment equipment is actually capable of taking it out. Your water quality is your source. Your source is what's flowing through your tap. You as the homeowner have the responsibility to find out about what's in the water and treat it to the level that suits your home and your needs. I'm Jeff Wall from Wall Water. Today we're going to be exploring rural water education and testing. So as a homeowner, it's difficult to know how to actually choose to treat your water. And you can contact a water treatment company. If you contact a water treatment company, not all treatment companies approach water the same. So you have the variable of each company looking differently potentially at how to treat. So what trumps everything, what actually gives the final punch is deciding on the quality of water you want in your home. Because for some people, if water is clear and doesn't have bacteria, it's drinking water. For other people, they're really concerned about chemicals, PCBs, herbicides, pesticides, other things that can be present in the water. And for those people, it is of serious concern. But water treatment is limited to what it can treat. And if you take the approach of splitting the water in your home into what's usable and what's drinking, you have a better chance of treating the water to a level that's acceptable for the working water, what you use every day, and to the quality you need for the drinking at a separate device that provides just your drinking water. If you want to properly treat your water, the only way to do that is to test the water for contaminants that are known in your area. So areas that are subject to specific contamination, it's a good practice to actually test for those contaminants if they're known in the area, as well as standard parameters that are characteristics in well water. So to start, in order to treat your water, you can't treat the water unless you know what is in the water in order to decide what level of treatment you want and the type of treatment that you want for your specific home. So when you're deciding to treat your water and you want testing done, who do you call? Well, you can call a water treatment company who specializes in well water treatment, for example, if you have a well source, or lake water, who generally has the capacity to do some in-house testing for common parameters and is accredited with a lab or facilitated with a lab, that has the ability to do a comprehensive test and provide a report to that treatment dealership in order to help you treat your water properly. You have the option at any point of bypassing the water treatment professional and sending your own water sample into a lab for the test. Once you have those test results, then you could go to a water treatment company to present those test results and ask for recommendations. Plumbing companies can sometimes provide this, but most plumbing companies are not set up to have comprehensive water testing done unless they specifically indicate so. When you're in your home, you're using your water, if it doesn't smell, it doesn't have a funny taste, if you don't see any significant staining, it's often out of sight and out of mind. You turn on the tap and the water flows. you're not really too concerned because there's nothing to give you an indicator that there is cause to be concerned. Unless you send it away for a test or you have something to tell you there's a problem, you rarely do much about that. And most people get to the point where once they send a test, they're fearful potentially of what they could find and fear, a little bit about the costs associated with trying to fix the water. When you have a municipal water source, your municipal water source is checked and balanced, it's regulated, someone is doing routine testing of that water and ensuring that it meets the requirements set out by the province for the municipal water. Whether that meets your drinking water quality guidelines is your personal choice, right? So if you know that there's microplastics in the water, you need to have a device that can take those out of the water if you want to have safe drinking water. If there is an elevated level of chlorine that's causing irritation for skin, you want to take that out of the home where it enters your house. When you are in the country, you do not have those checks and balances. There is nothing in your rural water mandate from the public health unit or any other agency that's requiring you to do anything with your own water. So you as the homeowner are left to decide what you want to do. And as a water treatment company, we firmly believe that there's two kinds of water in your house or cottage or business. Those two kinds are working water, so that's what you shower in, bathe in, do your laundry, do your dishes, what feeds your dishwasher, what you flush your toilet with. We see that as working water. It's water that you don't consume, but it's an important piece in your home because the water that feeds those devices, you want to make sure that all your devices are operating correctly. You don't want your water quality to affect your dishwasher and have your dishes come out cloudy or scaled. Your hot water tank elements, if they get scale, will operate inefficiently. So having working water in the home, as a water treatment professional, we believe working water is different than drinking water. Yet drinking water is extremely important because that's what you consume. It's what you use for coffee, tea, juice, what you cook with. The split needs to be made in your home as a consumer to decide, how do I want to treat the water that I drink? And how do I want to treat the water that I'm using in my house? So water exists in three different forms. It exists as solids in the snow, it exists as a liquid form, and it also exists in vapor as it falls in rainfall. Those three different forms can attract a different level of contamination depending on the form that it's in. So an ice can store contaminants for long periods of time. When it melts, it can actually contribute that contaminant back into a water supply again. So depending on the source of the water, the contaminant can move around within that source differently. Water can come in rural areas from drilled wells. It can come from shallow wells like dug or shore wells. And the characteristics of the water change depending on the well source. Shallow wells are subject to surface water, and surface water can bring contaminations or discoloration, and deep drilled wells can be subject to the local area if the rock is fractured, to deep well contamination if water is being influenced by anything on the surface that can make its way into the ground. So understanding your water source when you own a rural property is important so that you can be educated to know how to take the next step to look at treating it. In some cases, wells go dry, and our experience has been that certain wells, especially in our service area, occasionally wells just can't produce enough water, and homeowners are left to try and decide how to get water. So if you always have the option of putting a holding tank in your building and bringing water in, but that's not the easiest thing for people to do if you don't own a truck or you don't have the ability to fill a tank or transfer that water. So some people choose to put rainwater collection systems in, but rainwater can also carry some of the contamination that's moved its way over great distances that can hit your roof and enter into your water supply. So rainwater should be treated as well and treated to a level that's safe for consumption in your home and for drinking in your home. So in other words, you got to treat all the water. It's challenging for us because as water treatment professionals, we either overlook the fact that all these things are there and just put in the equipment because it's what I need to do to stay and eat and feed my family. Or we give customers the choice. My experience has been when I give the customer the choice, they look at me like, oh my God, right? That is difficult as a water treatment provider to educate. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility as a homeowner to treat the water to the level that you feel is good when you have the knowledge of knowing what's in it. The first question I usually ask when I come in to do a sales call is, how important is the quality of water in your home for drinking purposes? Do you want to drink your water? And I start there, always. Because if you're planning on drinking your water, that tells me that you are in a position where you're going to need a drinking water system. If you tell me that you don't care about drinking water, but you're concerned about scaling and staining, then we design a treatment system to address the working water in your house and prevent that from causing issues. So when you are the homeowner, how you choose to use your water is important for the water treatment person to be able to assist you in meeting your needs. In some cases, you don't need to have all the treatment equipment installed. In some cases, you need components of the treatment equipment done to meet your particular needs with full education to know what they do. Because at the end of the day, if you're one person in a house or you're 6, that plays a role. If your pump can do 3 gallons a minute or 10 gallons a minute, which most homeowners don't have a clue what their pump can do, that plays a role. If the water quality has iron, sulfur, hardness, and tannin in it, or just bacteria in it, that changes what we treat. And if the homeowner is disconcerting and doesn't want any sediment, any scaling, anything, then the level of treatment can change. If the homeowner just wants to take the bugs out, then we can do bacterial treatment and tell them full well about the risks, but sometimes people don't take that into consideration. As long as I tell you up front what the risks are, it's your choice as the homeowner to assume that risk. Most people, when they buy their rural home, are not aware of the potential risks. They're not informed of the potential risks, and there's no requirement to tell them so. So my take on that is that as a rural property owner, just the same as you're responsible for the quality of your furnace, you're responsible for the quality of the insulation in your home, you're responsible for the aesthetics to the way you want to see your home, your water should fit into that classification as well. So if you view your water the same as you view some of the other things in your home, you have that responsibility to take care of that, but you need to know what's in the water in order to make an educated decision. There's 10 parameters that are key, that are common to be in most wells, and we're going to assume that your drinking water has contamination. This is how we get the treatments done. So basically, I firmly believe a reverse osmosis should be in everybody's house if you're in the country. That's my personal opinion, simply because if you take and look at the technology of reverse osmosis, it can physically separate any contaminant from water with no discrimination. So to give you a comparison, standard micron size, which was what we use for treating water, is 20 microns. So at 20 microns, the human eye can see most sediment in water. Reverse osmosis is at decimal 0.00001 micron. So it's kind of like taking a dump truck and trying to stuff it through the point of a pin, right? That's the size difference you've got in the treatment. The point of the pin is the pore size on the membrane, and the dump truck is any contaminant. It physically just won't fit through the hole. So now we're not selecting the contaminant, we're rejecting the contaminant. UV disinfection goes on the basis of zapping the bug and takes nothing out. That's the difference between a point of entry product that is designed for bacteria only or a point of use that's designed for further treatment. My personal experience was with a customer who had just recently moved from Southern Ontario to a rural property on a lakefront in Northern Ontario. I was called out to just do an assessment of the water, and they wanted to know what they could do about the water. So when I got there, I simply asked, are you aware of where your water source comes from? It was a simple question. It was just to try and identify whether they had a lake water source or a well water source. And the consumer looked at me and said, from the tap. This consumer assumed because they came from the city, they never assumed or gave any thought to where the water was coming from at the tap in the country. So they just assumed the water flowed out of the tap. They had no idea they had a well. It was not disclosed to them, or they didn't pay attention. I don't know, but they honestly believed that the tap flowed and it just came out. So that, as a water treatment person, for me was educational, because When you're in the country, your water has to come from a source. That source is usually from the lake or from a well, has pumping systems and other things you need to maintain in order to supply that water. So it was shocking to me to have a customer, not know where the water was coming from. But the more I gave it some thought, if you're moving from the city, that's all you've known. You've had water flowing out of your taps your entire life, and you relocate to the country. There is a whole host of things you should know about your pumping system, your treatment system, the quality of your water, and that's where water treatment professionals can help. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Wall Water Watch. In the next episode, I'm going to explore how water in your home should be considered as working water or drinking water, and in some cases, they can be both. Stay tuned for the next episode.